Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, and we are about half an hour late. We were having extreme difficulties with the internet overlords. We don't understand why the system was not going through. If you showed up at 2:30 for our regularly scheduled program, we were up, we were live, we were trying to speak to you. We were getting shut down. 70% of our signal was not going out. No idea why that was the case. But at this moment, we're back up and we're back live again. And I don't understand what the difference is, to tell you the truth. But we are back. The signal is now going through. Suddenly, we're perfectly fine. And we're going to go forward. And we're going to start as if we had started from the very beginning. I hate when this happens. And I want you to understand, folks, when you see things like this happen where we're trying to stream live and where the signal is being degraded so you can't hear what's going on, that's often a tactic that is used to distract you, to discourage you, so that you won't be able to add your voice to the commentary, that you won't be able to speak. It's meant to cause you to get frustrated and to go away. And that's one of the things that we combat on this channel on a regular basis. It's very upsetting, but you know what? We are going to continue to move forward. We're going to go forward with this show, and we're going to provide you the best show we can. Now, if this is the first time that you are seeing us, every weekday, every Sunday at about 2:30 p.m., we go live as long as the internet overlords allow to hear your voices. You can call into the show at 607-242-1582. You can also reach us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, DLive with your chats and your comments, and we'll be able to see them and respond to you. With that said, let's try and get back to the issues that we were talking about, because there's a lot that's happening in America. And everyone's trying to focus on the Pope, or they're trying to talk about climate change. And I think there are bigger issues that are happening right now, far, far more important. Crime is a massive issue. The lies that we are hearing from our government is a massive issue. It is actually documented now that the Biden administration has actually and actively lied to the American people. And this is something that the internet overlords don't want you to know. The news media don't want to address this. And this is causing a big problem. Let me go back to what I was talking about earlier this week. You may have seen this one statement, and I do want to get to the illegal aliens and how the Biden administration is literally paying them up to $1 million for each family out of your pocket. They're using your tax dollars to do that. Now, I'm going to address that in just a second, but I want to get to something that I had spoken about earlier in the week. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, is actively lying to your face. They are literally telling you that you don't need to know the truth, that they don't care about you. They are the most callous administration I have ever seen, ever, in 53 years of my life. Look at this. Think about this. On August 18th, we were told by the Biden administration, and he's speaking to ABC, George Stephanopoulos, and he said on national TV that if there were Americans who were in Afghanistan and they wanted to come home, he would keep troops in Afghanistan to get them home. That changed. By August 31st, the new message coming from the Biden-Harris administration was any American that wanted to come home would come home. Then we were told on September 1st that 100 to 200 Americans had been left behind. They were left in Afghanistan. On September 5th, we were told, no, the number is 100. There's only 100 Americans who have been left behind. By September 20th, we were told it's down to 85. Only 85 Americans were left in Afghanistan that were struggling and hiding from the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, and ISIS terrorist organizations because of the Biden administration's orders. Then on October 26th, we were told by the Undersecretary of Defense, Mr. Call, that 450 Americans are in Afghanistan and want to come home. On October 27th, we were told by Deputy Secretary of State Brian McKinnon, That number is now 415. We are seeing the real problem in America. It's ineptitude. It is lying to your face. It is taking the issues that actually matter and just hiding them from you. They're just hiding them from you. They don't even care anymore whether you're paying attention or not, because they are so confident. And the news media is complicit in this. When was the last time you heard an elected official, like, say, New York 19's Antonio Delgado? When was the last time you saw him actually mention Americans that are trapped in Afghanistan? No, they haven't talked about that. They've been talking about everything but that. In fact, they have been talking about how they're going to help you, how they're going to fix things, how they're going to take care of crime. And let's think about that. How have they been taking care of crime? They've been telling your kids that, well, if you're white, you're a racist. And if you're black, you're a victim. And that the victims should rise up against the oppressors, those racists. That's what they've been saying. This is the Democratic message. This is the progressive ideology that's coming through. And we've been hearing that loud and clear. And we see this as an example, as we showed you on October 27th, and we covered this on the show. We now see this as happening in our daily life, where in this case, we had a gentleman who was told, please chill out. He's causing a ruckus. He's disrupting people on the New York City subway. And because a woman, a young white woman who is about 5'2", 5'3", 100 pounds lighter than this man, because she said chill out, this guy hits her. He assaults her. And his reasoning is white people shouldn't pay attention to his business. That's what he says. And that wasn't national. For some reason, that story, no, that doesn't go national. People won't talk about that. The news media won't tell you about the consequences of what they are promoting. When they're telling your kids, when they've been telling you for decades, for almost a decade now, that, oh, white people are just evil. It's critical race theory. There's institutional racism, and black people should rise up. BLM, burn down Minnesota, burn down the cities, defund our police. What's the consequence of that? What happens when you tell people this every single day? Some people are going to take advantage. And when they take advantage of these silly ideas, they're going to hurt other people. Now, you may say, well, Mike, I don't live in New York City. I don't ride the subway. That doesn't matter, because that same message in New York City is the message that's going out to Des Moines, Iowa. It's the same message that's going out to Austin, Texas. It's the same message that's going out to Binghamton, New York. It doesn't matter where you are. People are being told every day that we need to divide this nation. We need to separate this nation based on political lines. And that also covers racial lines. Racially, you should be separated, that you should be divided. This isn't a nation that's being united. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said that they would unite America. No, they haven't. Not even close. Because they don't care. They're absolutely callous. They don't, and I don't say this to try and piss off the Democrats or to piss off liberals. But I want you to understand the consequences of what they're saying. Oh, we care so much about you, and we have to separate you. We need to separate kids. We've covered this story. Kids are being separated in kindergartens in Maryland because they're black or they're white. We're seeing this all over our nation, and this is having a direct impact. We're seeing more and more people get violent, acting violently because of their color or their politics. And this doesn't go anywhere well. I mean, think about this. Next week, Monday, they're going to be starting the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. That's a trial based on the Kenosha shooting, where Kyle Rittenhouse was trying to defend himself from a group of pedophiles and convicted criminals with guns who are trying to kill him. And you may say, well, he shouldn't have been there, or he didn't act. The fact is, there were riots going on. They were trying to burn down gas stations. And because he non-violently tried to stop them from burning down a gas station, and he happened to be white, and they attacked him because it was a BLM protest. Yes, a protest where they were trying to burn down a gas station, where they were rioting in the streets, where they had burned down multiple businesses and homes because of the racial divide that we were told from people like Cori Bush and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic Socialists of America, especially the Ithaca chapter, Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT. These groups were telling Americans that you should destroy property and harm other people based on the color of your skin. And Joe Biden came into office saying, don't worry, I will unite everyone. And he has done nothing but to make it worse. So much so that he is telling Americans, he's telling us in America that people in Afghanistan, Americans in Afghanistan no longer count. They're just non-existent. And it's a fact that they have lied to our faces. They literally showed us this. The evidence is there. You can look this up for yourself from left-leaning media. The Biden administration, we're talking about the Secretary of State, the Undersecretary of Defense, the Deputy Secretary of State, the Chief of Staff, and Joe Biden himself. They have lied to your face. And then, on top of lying to your face, they are going around and they're telling you things to scare you and misinform you. They're doing this massively, not just with the pandemic and the pandemic medications, but also things like gun control. They keep telling you, we have to end the Second Amendment. Guns are dangerous. Firearms are dangerous. People can't have them. Even though they keep telling you, well, it's the AR-15. It's that assault rifle, as they like to call it, even though it's not an assault rifle. And you know what? AR-15s aren't the most dangerous thing you could possibly have. They're not dangerous at all. Look at this story from ABC, okay? I don't know if you saw this in the news, but ABC is telling you, oh, well, AR-15s aren't that dangerous. ABC themselves tell you that there's only 20 million assault rifles in the United States. You think that's a lot, except there's 400 million firearms in the United States. They go on to tell you that only 2%, less than 2% of all rifles and shotguns are responsible for most of the crime that we see. But they're not pushing that when you hear, oh, it's gun control. We've got to ban these guns. We've got to remove your right to defend yourself. Because they want to, what did Joe Biden say on CNN? He wants to get rid of 9mm handguns. He wants to get rid of any semi-automatic firearm that you have. He said it on CNN. He said it at a town hall. He told us this live. And this is troubling. This is dangerous. Because at the very same time, we're seeing crime at levels that we have never seen before. I mean, just look at New York City. The overnight shootings. 5 people are injured. 1 person is dead. This is in New York City yesterday, October 30th. What about over in Chicago? Downtown shootings are up 220%. This is October 29th. That's before this weekend, and I guarantee you in Chicago this weekend, Halloween, you're going to see massive amounts of shootings. It's going to be insane. They're taking away our police at the very same time that they're trying to take away our ability to defend ourselves. And they're telling us that these weapons are dangerous, even though the evidence, when they actually try to be honest, are telling us they're not the problem. They're not the problem. And yet they don't want you to be able to defend yourself. They don't want you to have the ability to protect yourself. That's insane. Now, maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think, Mike, it's not that big a deal. And you know what? Damn it, we know that they've turned around. They've realized the problem. just in time for the next election. What are we hearing now? Mayors aren't stupid, and they understand that if taxpaying residents of their cities start leaving, as they did in the 1970s, the whole city is endangered. This is from the Ohio State professor from Ned Hill. So they want you to think that they're going to protect you, that they understand what's going on. At the meantime, they are still trying to take away your right to own a firearm. They're still trying to control how you live. They still are pushing the mandates of vaccines. They're still trying to push reallocating funds for police. They're still telling our kids that if you are born a certain color, well, then you're a racist. If you're born another color, well, then you're less than another human being. And they're telling us all of this at the same time that they're saying to us, well, don't worry. The biggest problem in the world isn't whether or not crime is up in America. No, that's not the problem. It's the climate. That's the problem. The biggest problem in America is the climate. It's not the racial injustice that they tell us every day is happening and that white people are evil. It's not the firearms that they're trying to take away from us because they say they're inherently dangerous, even though the data doesn't support that. You got to wonder. And again, I have to say, this is the same government that is willing to lie to your face. They told you they would get every American out. Then they told you there's only 100 people that they have to get out. And now we find out there's 450 people. What makes you think that there aren't 4,000 people? Let's think about it. Back in July and June, we knew that there were 10,000 to 15,000 Americans in Afghanistan. When we left on September 1st, when they told us there's only 100 Americans left in Afghanistan, they told us, oh no, there was only 6,000. 4,000 people just disappeared. This is something that's incredible. I don't know. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think, Mike, well, it's perfectly fine for them to make up these numbers, that suddenly there's more or less Americans, that it doesn't need to be national news, that the Biden administration looked every single American in the eye and said, oh, yeah, there's only 100 people that we have to get. We got everyone out except 100 people, and has not gotten back on national TV. Not one reporter has asked him, hey, why is it that there's almost 500% more people in Afghanistan than you promised us? Why did you lie to the American people? Why has no reporter asked the Biden administration, why did you lie? Because they didn't think that you were going to pay attention. They didn't think you were going to notice. They don't think that you're paying attention. They don't think you're noticing the crime that's going on right now. They don't think you notice that you have less police being able to protect you, that you have less access to the firearms to be able to protect yourself. They think that you're more dependent on the government today than you were 2 years ago. And since you're more dependent, you need the government for a check, you need the government for your monthly payments. Well, then you don't get to say anything. Now you are dependent on the government. That's what they seem to think. They think that, well, the rules don't matter anymore because you no longer have power. That's what seems to come across. Now, this is the way I take it. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think I'm misunderstanding. Maybe you think critical race theory is great. Maybe you think it's good to teach our kids that one race of people is above another race of people, because that, at the end of the day, is what critical race theory is about. And that's promoting crime. Maybe you think it isn't. Maybe you think that's the solution to crime. And if you do, I want to hear your voice. I want you to tell me, no, Mike, this is how we fix crime. This is how we solve this. And I'd like to know how, because all evidence says that's wrong. Hi, Ann, and thank you for being patient with us as we fight with the internet overlords to be able to get the signal out. You said, And says the media don't ask the hard questions because the mainstream media has become the Pravda of today's America. And for those who don't know, Pravda is one of the, it is a state-owned news agency of the Soviet Union, communism, and it pushed out communist propaganda. And I think you're right, Ann. I really do. Because that's what we're seeing in the media right now. Everything that we're being told, we have to question. We're being told, oh, well, that pandemic medication that you are required to have, it's a mandate, and you can trust us. Wait a minute, these are the same people that just told us that there's only 100 people in Afghanistan when there's 500 people in Afghanistan, maybe thousands of people in Afghanistan. Why should we believe them? Why should we trust them? These are the same people that told us, well, if we have bail reform, there'll be less crime. And yet, everywhere we look, all evidence says that there's more crime from the people that we are releasing when we let someone out. There was just an article the other day. A guy got arrested 4 times for committing the same crime. He would go out and he would mug people, he would assault people 4 times. The last time, I think this was reported by, this was in the Syracuse.com, the guy gets let out and turns around on the same day, commits the same crime. And we've seen this for a year now, since they have put in the reforms in New York State, in California, and several other states. Bail reform hasn't made it better, but we were told, no, that's the answer. We were promised these things. And now we're being told by these very same lawmakers, don't worry, it's all going to be fine. We get it now. Just reelect us. Because that's what they're really worried about, I think. And Ann, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If you're watching this, folks, tell me if you think I'm wrong. That their answer right now is, don't worry, we understand, we get it, and we're going to fix it. Just reelect us. Because that's what they're really worried about, is the reelection. I mean, I'll give you a great example of what I'm talking about here. You may recall that back on August 5th, we see that, Andrew Cuomo got kicked out of, he was forced to resign from governor of New York State because of 11 sexual assaults. 11 sexual assaults. Not the 16,000 New York City residents that died in nursing homes that Andrew Cuomo forced them in and then covered up. And we know this. It's been confirmed by the major news media. Andrew Cuomo did, in fact, push sick people into nursing homes that led to 16,000 people being killed. And then he covered it up. That's been confirmed by the major news media, the left-leaning news media, confirmed. He covered this up. That is absolute corruption that led to the deaths of individuals. But Letitia James, who now wants to be governor of New York, she didn't look into the 16,000 people that died. She doesn't care about that. She doesn't want to talk about that corruption. She just wanted Andrew Cuomo out of the way so that she could run. That's what I believe. And I think that's very clear because when she first found out that he committed at least 11 acts of sexual assault, she didn't charge him with a single crime. She's the Attorney General of New York State, the top prosecutor of New York State. Found actual criminal crimes, found out that Cuomo committed 11 acts of sexual abuse at least, and didn't charge him with a single crime. So much so that back in August, I was talking about the fact that Cuomo had $18.5 million in his pocket that he could use for any campaign he wanted in New York State. And the Democrats didn't question it, didn't have a problem with it. And they didn't charge him with a crime from July until until October. The end of October. It's November, and they're just now getting to the point where they want to charge Andrew Cuomo with a charge. On October 28th, they said Andrew Cuomo is going to be charged because of sexual assaults. We knew that back in July. In July. Why did we have to go from July, the middle of July, until the beginning of November for Andrew Cuomo to get charged with a crime we already knew about? Because at the same time that we saw that, we have to admit that we also saw that Letitia James is now running for governor. I mean, this was reported on October 29th, on Friday. Letitia James is going to be governor. She's already got a fundraising effort going on. They're already trying to raise money for her. Across the nation, they're trying to get her elected right now. They're trying to, and isn't it funny? October 28th, they finally come out and charge Andrew Cuomo with a crime that we knew about back in July. And then on the 29th, Letitia James goes, hey, I'm the guy who got Cuomo out. I'm such a great person. You should elect me for New York. By the way, we're fundraising right now. How is that not about politics? How is that not lying to your face? It's the same thing that the Biden administration said. Oh, we're going to get everyone home. We only forgot 100 people. Oh, you mean it's 450 people? Well, no one's talking about that anymore. Don't worry, we're the party of unity. Really? I mean, maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think, Mike, it's not that big a deal. 16,000 people died. It was covered up. That's not important. That corruption doesn't matter. Letitia James is a great person. She got Cuomo out on an entirely different charge that doesn't address the corruption in New York State. And there's a reason why they waited instead of going in July, but in November, they decided, let's talk about this now. Let's tell you how great Letitia James is in November, so you don't remember that in July, she did nothing. In August, she did nothing. In September, she did nothing. In October, she did nothing. She was perfectly fine and okay with the corruption in New York State up until she decided to run for a better political office. Right up until the moment it would actually benefit her. And then, and only then, she decided to go, hey, I'm running for office. Give me your money. Give me your money. Give me power. Then she says, oh, let's go and charge him on the least problematic thing that he has done. That's right. And I'll say it again. The least problematic thing. She's after Cuomo to get elected. She's after Cuomo on sexual assault. What about 16,000 people that died? Isn't that the bigger issue? The fact that there was a cover-up of the 16,000 people that died. Isn't that the bigger issue? Aren't we supposed to be more concerned about that? Letitia James isn't. So what makes you think that she's going to be a better politician? What makes you think she's going to be less callous than Biden and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Because they don't care about you. They don't care about the 500 Americans they left in Afghanistan that they won't even speak about. Even the regular rank and file Democrats like Antonio Delgado of the New York 19th District won't talk about the Americans that were left behind, won't talk about the 16,000 Americans in New York State that died. Go and ask Governor Whitmer out of Michigan. Ask her about the 4,000 people that died in nursing homes there. Ask California's Governor Newsom. And ask him about the thousands of people that died in their nursing homes. They won't talk about it. So what makes you think that they're more unifying and that they're going to bring you back together? That just tells me how little they care. Now you may think, Mike, well, you're just wrong, Mike. You just misunderstand this. Maybe. I don't think that's the case. but maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me. Tell me if you think I've misunderstood that. Tell me if you think that we should trust this government more, even as they are lying to our faces, even as they are telling us stuff that conflicts with the reality that we are living. We are living this reality. We are living the reality that crime has spiked. We're living with this every day. We're living with the fact that when they teach our kids critical race theory, when they teach and have been pouring into our heads for years now that one race is better than another race and that it's okay to have violence against people's words, we get these kind of situations. This is the reality that we're dealing with. Tell me if you think I'm wrong here. Do you think that the Biden, I'm telling you folks, the internet overlords hate what I am talking about right now. You know, I just saw that they dropped us completely and they brought us back. They hate that we are speaking about these issues with you. They don't want you to think about Letitia James in a negative way. They don't want you to think about the Biden-Harris administration and what they're doing. They don't want you to consider what's happening with Governor Newsom, Governor Whitmer. They don't want you to think about what's happening in our Congress right now, or the consequences of critical race theory, or the problems with vaccine mandates, and the violation of our religious rights and our right to choose and the Constitution. They are really beating up on us. And they are beating up on those of us who are speaking about this. And if you think I am wrong, I am more than happy to hear your voice. I want to hear, please tell me how I am misunderstanding this. Tell me how you are misunderstanding, you, the rest of America, the rest of the world are misunderstanding these things. Let me even point out another thing. We have politicians that won't tell us the honest truth about the crime in America. They don't know why there's crime. Listen to what they're saying. Well, it might have been because we defunded the police. It might have been because when we defunded the police or we reallocated funds or we revisioned law enforcement, they keep rewording this, that when they left Americans defenseless, that crime increased. At the same time, let's look at what happened with Afghanistan. They lied to our faces. They lied to our faces. They won't tell you about how many people are there. There could be thousands of people there. If there's 450 people there, there could be 4,000 people there. Why should we trust this government? Why should we trust this government about the vaccine mandates and how safe it is when they can't even tell us the truth about what's happened in Afghanistan? And I have to ask a question. Why should we trust what they're telling us about the Afghan refugees? An issue that we've been talking about. We know for a fact that they have been taking kids, illegal immigrants, and they have been moving them across this entire nation. We talked to you about this when we caught them in Tennessee, Chattanooga, back in May 23rd, as a matter of fact. On May 23rd, we found out that the Biden administration are taking kids from the border and they're shipping them in the middle of the night across this country. We saw just a week ago that they're doing it in New York State, that they're taking kids from the border in the middle of the night and they're taking them over to JFK and spreading them around in New York State in the middle of the night so you don't know about it. They're hiding the truth from you. They are lying to your face. And the news media is not talking about this. This isn't national news. It's not considered important that they are doing this under your nose, behind your back, telling you there's no problem. Don't mind us as we move, that we're shipping these kids across the country. We're shipping illegal aliens across this country. 12,000 Haitian immigrants were just walked into our nation. Just open the doors and let them in because they decided to break our laws and live under a bridge. And no one's talking about, oh, by the way, and everywhere that we've seen all these illegal aliens, everywhere they've gone, we've seen crime go up. We've been seeing more crime. And these Afghan refugees, the 52,000 people that we know nothing about, they did not work with America for 2 decades. They didn't help us in Afghanistan. We don't know anything about these people other than they got on a plane to get out of Afghanistan. And we took them instead of any American citizens. We left hundreds, maybe thousands of American citizens in Afghanistan and took 52,000 people we don't know anything about and brought them to America. And every time that we are letting these people go into our communities, these 52,000, I'm not talking about the SIV holders, the people we've actually vetted that we know something about. The people we don't know, that 52,000 people we don't know anything about, every time we send them into states, 4 states now, 4. Minnesota, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Texas. Every time there are women who are being sexually assaulted. There are minors, little girls that are being sexually assaulted. And every time we ask our leaders, our elected officials about this and say, when are they coming to New York? When are they coming to Pennsylvania? When are they going to be shipped out to Ohio? Where are these people going? They go, we don't know. When are they going to go there? We don't know. Who's going to pay for this? We don't know. When are you going to finish vetting these people, which normally takes 2 to 3 years? We don't know. That's the only answer we keep getting consistently from all of our elected officials. We don't know. In the meantime, they're bringing in more people. They're bringing in more people. Because, and this is where we're going to start talking about the $450,000 that is being given away. They're inviting more and more people. We don't know who any of these people are. 52,000 Afghan refugees we know nothing about. Every time we let them into a community, women get assaulted. I'm not saying all of them are doing it, but I am telling you that every time we keep sending them a group of Afghan refugees that we have never vetted into a community, we see that this is happening. How many times does it have to happen in a row before it's no longer just a coincidence and there is a pattern? 4 states, we've already got that. 5 states, 10, 15. How many times does it have to happen before the news media is willing to say, hey, maybe we should vet these people? Maybe we shouldn't keep asking more illegal aliens to come into our country, which is what the Biden administration is doing. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see on October 28th, Thursday, that the Biden administration just opened up the doors to America, and they're letting in more people from more countries? We now have El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Yemen. They're all welcome to come to the United States. The door has been opened to each and every one of these countries. That's besides places like Myanmar and Venezuela that also have this. We have been taking in thousands of people, tens of thousands of people from around the world. We have an open door policy. We have Haitians that are coming in, and there are right now approximately 200,000 people that are somewhere along the way coming to America. We know there's 3,000 people right now that are at the Mexico City on their way to Texas and the American southern border. And everything they know is the Biden administration will let them into America because they just did it for 12,000 Haitians. They did it for 1.3 million illegal aliens. That's how many people we've let into America. And the Biden administration says, well, we have to because our border patrol is whipping them. No evidence of that. There isn't even a picture of that. There isn't anyone who's ever complained of that. It doesn't exist. But we're told, oh, no, but, Americans are evil. We're horrible, evil people. Even though there's no evidence of what they're talking about, there's no evidence of what they're claiming. Remember you heard Maxine Waters? Oh, they're whipping these illegal aliens, except it's a lie. It's not true. The media talked about it. They had it in all the news. You saw the articles. We talked about it on this show. Yet it wasn't true. It never happened. But this is the excuse they're using. So since this fake news, this false report from CNN, from MSNBC, from ABC, from CBS, they all covered this, the beating that the Border Patrol was beating illegal Haitians with whips. That didn't happen. That wasn't true. They blasted that news for days and said, well, now we have to let them in. We have to let them in because America's evil. And now what are we seeing because of that? Our schools are being overcrowded. You can see it. The border crisis has now hit our classrooms. October 30th from the New York, this is from the New York Post. Our classrooms, the kids that are crossing into our, crossing the border, the child abuse that has been done to them, now they're being sent into New York City. Now they're into our schools, which were already overcrowded. Classrooms were already overcrowded. And now there's 5,000 more kids that are in New York City, into our New York school system. 5,000 more kids into an overcrowded system that isn't adequate for American citizens. And now we have to have the illegal aliens in there too. You're going to say, well, Mike, aren't you being compassionate? That doesn't mean we're going to let everyone in. Because every illegal alien that's thinking about this, they're realizing, hey, we've got to come to America. They're willing to come to America even as some of them are drowning. This also was reported today, October 31st. Woman drowned. 13 people had to be rescued as they were trying to cross the river to enter into the United States. They're dying to, literally, they are dying to get into this nation. Not just the ones that are being left in deserts that just walk around and die from dehydration. They're dying trying to cross the rivers. And that's the ones that we know of along the way. And you have to ask yourself, why are they willing to die in our rivers, to die in the desert? Why are they willing to live under a bridge? Why are they doing this? Because they're going to get paid. Because they're going to get paid $450,000. Can you imagine that? Could you imagine that you're going to imagine getting $450,000 for committing a crime? If someone told you, if you commit this crime, I'll pay you $450,000, would you do it? That's a real good question, huh? And I'm going to ask this to the entire group. Would you commit a crime for $450,000? Because that's what we're asking illegal aliens across the world. We're asking people across the world, would you break the United States immigration law because you could get paid $450,000? Your family could be paid $1 million. Would you break the law for that? Would you commit a crime to do that? Because I think that's an important question. It's a question that you're not going to hear from anywhere in the news media. No one's going to actually ask you that question. No one's actually going to say, is this something that we should consider? There's no one else in the news media that is asking this question that I am asking right now. Because that is the question that we are telling people around the world. Would you commit a crime for $450,000? You could buy in America, the average home costs about $300,000. You could buy a home and a brand new car with this money. If you're a little bit more frugal, you could buy 3 houses with that money. You could rent out 2 houses and have one for your family to live in. You could start a brand new business $450,000. Think of all the things you could do with $450,000. Now imagine people who've been living off of $5,000, $10,000 a year. Imagine what they would do with $450,000. Chris mentions not to worry because with inflation, $450,000 will be worth $4,500 in a year or two. You know, you're right. You're right, Chris. Inflation is insane. And I think someone recently did the math. If you did the math on all the money that the Biden administration has given you, and if you look at inflation for the average person in America, he didn't give you anything. You've actually paid more in taxes. The inflation has eaten up every dollar that you got. You actually got nothing. Because inflation is higher than what you got sent out as a check. That bonus check that the Biden administration gave you is less than the inflation in America at this moment, and inflation is still going higher. But I have to tell you, that inflation is nothing. Start adding in the $450,000 that these people are going to be getting. That is an insane amount of money. $450,000 for breaking our laws in our nation. And by the way, you're paying for it. That's your tax money that's going. I love it. YouTube, Susan ate my homework. I know, I'm talking about math. Thank you, hot chicks. And it's good to see you and Chris, as well as Ann, and putting up with the difficulties coming from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter today. They wanted to scare everyone away so that you couldn't hear this conversation, which I think is important, and I think they know it too. I think they know this is an important question because the Biden administration is begging people to come to America right now. They're begging people to come to America right now. The people around the world know for a fact that the Biden administration has opened up the doors to America. The border is absolutely wide open. When they look at this around the world, 700,000 illegal aliens, they keep calling them, news media likes to call them immigrants. They're not immigrants. They're not legally allowed to be here. These are illegal aliens. They're breaking our laws. And Biden administration said 700,000 of the 1.3 million that have come here since February. Guess what? All of them can stay. They're okay. They can stay here. We are opening up the doors. This is what they are telling each other. The people in El Salvador, in Haiti, in Honduras, in Nicaragua, the Sudan, Syria, Venezuela, Yemen, they're all telling their friends, and they're telling everyone else in the world, well, America's just opened up the doors. They let 700,000 people in. I can be in there. If they let 7,000 people in, 1.3 million people in, well, they can give 1.3 million in one. And maybe if I get really, really lucky, if I'm really, really lucky, then that illegal alien's thinking, and I might get 450,000. Or maybe if you're in New York State, you'll get 15,000. Did you remember that? In New York State spent $2 billion to pay illegal aliens $15,000 apiece. Did you remember that? Do you remember that story? I want to bring that up for everyone. Because I don't think most people remember that. I want to get that story for you. Here it is. Here it is. And this is coming from the British. Number one story when you search for this. New York to give up to $15,600 to illegal aliens. Tell me, if you thought that if you were an illegal alien, and you're being told the door is wide open. And they're telling you that if you get to New York City or New York State, they'll pay you $15,000. Up to $2 billion was spent on illegal aliens. They gave away checks for $15,600 to these illegal aliens, $450,000 to some of the illegal aliens. You're getting a better country with more freedom, and you're getting paid. And all you have to do is break the law. I'm asking you guys, hot chicks, Chris, Ann, anyone who's watching this program, tell me, would you break the law for that? If you were told that you get paid between $15,000 and $450,000 for breaking the law, would you do it? I like hot chick says, can I escape and break back into the country? You know, that's what I'm wondering. Why wouldn't I? Look at the consequences of this. This isn't making less crime. This is making more crime, and it's making more complications of these crimes. Mike Bowie says, think of it as the Democrats buying more votes. It will never end. I think so. I mean, remember, at the same time we're seeing this, they're also saying, let's change our voting system. Everyone will get a mail-in ballot. We're just going to mail out ballots, and we don't have to check the signatures, and we don't have to do anything. Just mail out ballots, and when they come back, we'll count them all. It doesn't matter who does it. In California, they actually changed the law so that illegal aliens in California can actually vote. In New York State, we're giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens, and they can go online, and once they get that driver's license, they can go online, and then they can register to vote. And they're going to get a ballot mailed to them so that no one's going to check that, and no one's looking for the signature, and they can send it back in, and they can vote. And they're doing this all with your tax money. You are paying more in taxes for this. This is why the Biden administration wants to increase the IRS by tens of thousands of workers to look into your bank account and look at every single transaction you do. They need more money to pay these illegal aliens to break our laws and to come into our country. That's not rhetoric. These aren't buzzwords. These are facts. This is the news. You have seen this news, and I have seen this news. And I'm just putting together the news that we have seen. Now, if you don't think my conclusion is correct, if you think I've misunderstood, the phone line is 607-242-1582. Or you can, like you see Hot Chicks and Mike Bowie and Chris Jones, you can type in on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, DLive. You can leave us a message. Or you can call in. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because this is the evidence we see. The Biden administration since February has opened up our borders, has told people that we will not kick them out of America, even though they broke our law and came in. We are moving those people across our country in the middle of the night so that no one knows about it, so no one can complain, and we are putting them into our schools and in our communities. And we are paying them your money to live in America, even as some of them are committing crimes. And if you question this, if you say, well, this isn't right, if you say that this is a problem, the news media and the Biden administration will turn around and saying, well, that must be because you're evil. You're a racist. Because of critical race theory. You're a racist. You are a bad person because you have the wrong color of skin or you have the wrong political beliefs. And therefore, you're wrong and we don't have to listen to you anymore. This is what the Biden administration is doing. And this is what they care about. Because I will tell you again, I think this is what, it's not even, do I think that this is what they care about? The Biden administration has shown you, they have demonstrated that that's exactly what they believe. Because they lied to you. Because they abandoned Americans and forgot about them. And they lied to you about how many that they actually abandoned, that they don't want to talk about, that the news media will not cover. I mean, and you'll say and I've had people say, well, Mike, these are news stories. You're getting it from the Wall Street Journal. You're getting it from the New York Times. You're getting these articles from ABC News and CNN. So they have covered it. Okay. Let's be honest. There's a big difference in the news media covered this for 30 seconds and the news media covering it for 3 days. There's a big difference. And we can see the news media is talking about Biden and the climate change for 6 months, 7 months now they've been talking about these things? How long did the news media talk about the 16,000 people who died in New York nursing homes? How long has the news media talked about the 4,000 people that died in Michigan? I'll make it more recent. Let's make it more recent. How much is the news media talking about the increase in crime in New York State? Compare the amount that they've talked about the crime increasing in New York State versus them talking to you about how much taxes they're going to charge you so that they can give money to illegal aliens. How many people even remember that New York State they already spent it, $2 billion. New York State is bankrupt. New York State is $8 billion in the hole. We lose $8 billion a year. We spent $2 billion of that $8 billion on illegal aliens. And we plan to spend more. We already spent the money under Cuomo, and Hochul, the appointed governor, Kathy Hochul, is planning to spend more. And this is all your money. And Mike says, we're becoming a lawless country. And Mike, you're right. We're not, and I don't think we're becoming a lawless country. I think we are, at this point, a lawless country, and it's getting worse and worse. And I keep hearing from people who say, well, Mike, you shouldn't talk about such negative stuff. You would be much more famous if you didn't talk about all these negative things. Mike, you would be much more famous. Your channel would be much more large and huge if you just said happy things. Literally, I've gotten comments about that. I've seen comments on some of the videos that I've done. I've had people send me those messages. And I have to tell you, this isn't about my fame. This isn't about me being rich or famous. It's about being honest. It's about giving you the truth. It's about taking these stories that they put here and there, like with what we saw if we look at the complete coverage on Andrew Cuomo. Because when we look at that story from beginning to end as an example, and we see that Cuomo committed 11 sexual assaults over 8 years, and nobody in the news media or the Democratic Party was willing to say a word about it because he had $18 million and he could give it to different bank accounts and to his friends. And he helped people with the Moreland Commission and helped them to commit crimes and to get paid. For 8 years, his friends made tons of money. And his enemies went out of business, like the state trooper that was dating his daughter, who suddenly got thrown into Timbuktu. And then then he killed 16,000 people. And the news didn't put it together that, well, he killed 16,000 people, but he's also been very corrupt. And he covered up the news. And we found it because he told the Democratic Party, he told Democrats in the Assembly, he told Democrats in the state Senate, they admitted. His secretary of New York State told the Democrats that they covered up the 16,000 people that died. And then, only then, after a year of that being a story, of people paying attention to that, all of a sudden then the Democratic Party said, hey, We can get someone else in there. Someone who's even more progressive than Andrew Cuomo. We could get Letitia James. She's black, she's a woman, and she is a far left progressive. Isn't that what we want to be? Remember, they want to make New York the capital of the nation. Whoops, look at this. And the internet overlords are not loving me at the moment. They just froze it. There we go. They froze it on us again. They really don't like me talking about Letitia James. They really don't like me talking about Andrew Cuomo. They don't like me talking about the corruption in New York State. And yet, we should. Because it's directly in our face. How they are using us, how they are abusing us. Andrew Cuomo said nothing about the children that are being shipped into New York State by the Biden administration from the southern border. Kathy Hochul, the appointed governor of New York State, said nothing about the children that are being shipped into New York in the middle of the night, has nothing to say about it. They have nothing to say about the Afghan refugees that are unvetted, that we know nothing about, that have gone to 4 other states and committed sexual assaults. They have nothing to say about that. They won't comment on it. They won't even mention that there are Americans in Afghanistan, let alone the fact that hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, have been abandoned by the government. And instead, they're going to say, hey, Letitia James is great. She's a woman, she's black, and she got rid of Cuomo because he committed sexual assault. Me too. Me too. That's what they're screaming. Me too. The Me Too movement. Hashtag Me Too. Don't you want her in? Don't pay attention to the fact that they completely ignored 16,000 people dying. They completely ignore the cover-up, the corruption on that 16,000. They completely ignore the overcrowding of our schools by introducing illegal aliens into those schools. We have spent $2 billion, and again, this is just New York State, that we spent $2 billion on illegal aliens, and that the government of the United States has opened up our southern border and are about to pay $500,000 per person for entering the United States. Hot Chicks mentions, I thought Chicago was the capital of progressivism. No, it's actually California. And according to, remember, it was 2014 that Andrew Cuomo said, no, New York is going to be the progressive capital of the country, fighting with California on that. And Illinois, well, they're kind of in the middle. And so, but New York is doing a fantastic job. But we're seeing it in other parts of the country. And you're right, Hot Chicks, think about it, because we're seeing this in the middle of the country as well. The Afghan refugees, they went to Wisconsin. They went to Wisconsin and to Montana and New Mexico and to Texas. And everywhere they go, there's a woman who's been assaulted. There's minors who have been assaulted. Every single one. We see that in Virginia, Loudoun County. Women are being sexually assaulted because of the policies of the progressives. And it's excused. You can't talk about it. They are willing to cover up that crime. These are progressives. We're willing to cover it up. It's okay, women, Me Too, doesn't matter. Me Too does not exist if it's in conflict with a progressive law or a progressive ideology. The progressive ideology of taking care and making sure that our bathrooms are wide open, potentially to sexual predators as well as transgenders, that's more important than actual sexual assaults that are known, documented, and factually exist. No, progressive ideology is more important. And it has to be suppressed by the news. People wonder, and the Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, they wonder, why do people not trust the government? Look at what we're talking about today. How could you trust a government that does this? A government that selectively breaks the laws? A government that is using your taxpayer dollars for things that absolutely have no benefit to you or me. They're not helping the world economy. They're helping their political allies. They're encouraging people to break the law. And they're wondering why we're upset about this? How could we not be? And why aren't more people upset? Well, actually, we know why more people are upset. There are more people who are willing to watch football, more people who are going out for Halloween parties than any of them are paying attention to this. Ask your neighbor on Monday, when you see them on Monday at work, if you work with people anymore, if you still have a job that wasn't shut down because of the pandemic forever, if you have the ability to go to work, ask people at work and ask them, did you know that that Biden-Harris administration want to pay illegal aliens $500,000 apiece? They're going to look at you like you're not telling the truth. That's not true. You're just watching Fox News. Yeah, you're just one of those crazy radicals. No. Actually, you're paying attention to Forbes or maybe the New York Times. They've all covered it because that's the news. It's right here. It's documented. This is what they're talking about. But they're going to tell you, no, you're crazy. You're going to say, and I don't believe in the vaccine mandate, the pandemic medication requirement. They're going to say, oh, well, those are only crazy people who do that. You mean like the 250,000 people in France, like the 250,000 people in Italy, the 250,000 people in Ireland and in England, the 1 million people in Australia, and the hundreds of thousands of people in the United States that the news media knows that they are out there making a peaceful protest and will not cover it. But they will tell you that the protests in Kenosha were peaceful, absolutely peaceful, except for the guys who were trying to burn down a gas station that had already burned down a car distributor, that had already burned down apartment buildings. Don't pay attention to that. It's still peaceful, even as convicted criminals, pedophiles, are running around in crowds trying to attack innocent people. Yes, I mean Kyle Rittenhouse. They're attacking him. They're running around with guns looking to attack him and to shoot him because he stopped them from burning down a gas station. And that they will tell you that Kyle Rittenhouse was violent and that he is a criminal, but they won't tell you that the riot that was going on before those criminals had gotten shot, they're not going to tell you that those people are upset. Did you see the news? Look at Twitter. How many people on Twitter, how many of the progressives were upset because the criminals that got shot, and they are ex-cons, they were criminals, they had guns that they were not allowed to have, that these criminals were going to be labeled as looters and rioters because they have been videotaped as looting and rioting, and the left is upset because, oh, you mean you're not going to call them innocent? You're not going to call them victims? Yeah, I wish it was another episode of South Park, chicks. And again, I will say, the phone number is 607-242-1582. You are more than welcome, if you disagree, or if you agree, to call into the show and say, well, Mike, I think you're wrong. Or maybe you think I'm right. Maybe you think I haven't gone far enough. Maybe there's even more evidence than I'm showing to you right now. Or maybe you say, well, Mike, CNN and the New York Times, Forbes, MSNBC, ABC News, they're not good enough sources. It's not true enough. Quoting, the Undersecretary of State, well, that's not good enough. Please tell me what sources are. Tell me how I'm getting this wrong. Tell me how this doesn't make sense. Letitia James lets Cuomo go, no crimes. We wait 4 months. Now there's a crime and she's running. What an opportunity. What a coincidence. It's not like she's manipulating the public to use it to her advantage. That would never happen. I mean, does it make sense, folks? Does this make sense? I wish everyone did like Kyle. Mind you, if he broke the law, he should be held accountable to the law. I know I've had some people recently writing comments, well, Mike, you're not paying attention to the law. You're just ignoring the law. No, I'm not. I've had people, they want to make this about January 6th. Well, you're just ignoring the law, just like those people on January 6th, those insurrectionists. Well, one, you don't know the definition of insurrection. Let's start off there. If you're saying that January 6th is an insurrection, you don't understand the word insurrection. You don't understand what it means. Two, you also weren't paying attention to this, Jenna, when we did a live stream on January 6th at 1:30, talking about what was going on in the United States at that moment. Criminals, yes, I want to see criminals punished. But you know what? I have a bigger problem right now trying to figure out and trying to punish people like Andrew Cuomo, like the illegal aliens that are breaking into the United States, like the Afghan refugees that have never been vetted, that are committing sexual assaults on women. Yeah, I have a priority. Hot Chick says it won't happen again. What won't happen again? Do you mean the riots down in Washington, D.C.? I don't know. I'd like to say that it'll never happen again. I don't know that that's the case. I don't know that's true. And that brings up the question of what about the second Civil War? People have been talking, we're getting closer to a second Civil War. And I have to say, it's probably true. Because we have the Biden-Harris administration don't care about the average person. And yeah, I do think that we'll see, okay, you're saying that will the circumstances around Kyle Rittenhouse happen? Yeah, there's going to be more riots. We've already heard from BLM and the Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow and the far left radicals in Kenosha, in Minneapolis, have been telling us that they plan to riot if they don't get the charge that they want for Kyle Rittenhouse. That they're already telling us that they're going to riot, that they're trying to hold that court case hostage. They're promising violence if they don't get what they want. That's extortion. We're going to commit a riot if you don't vote the way we want you to, if you don't have the court decisions the way that we want you to, if you don't pay attention to the things we want you to pay attention to. That's extortion. And anyone who's saying that they should riot if Kyle Rittenhouse is found innocent of the charge of self-defense, because now self-defense is a crime in America, then I'm worried. When I say self-defense is a crime in America, they're trying to make it a crime. They're trying to make it a crime for you to be able to be armed, to have a firearm, to defend yourself. They have tried in New York State, what was it? Bill A416 out of the Assembly, which is a bill to make it illegal to own body armor, to basically a bulletproof vest. You can't own a bulletproof vest in New York State. That's what they would like the law to be. So your self-defense would be a crime if you did that. And they don't want you to defend yourself with a firearm. They don't want you to have police either. It's a crime to have self-defense. Hot Chick says, Kyle is a Halloween costume in Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's funny. I hadn't heard about that. I had not heard about that. That's funny. But let me ask you, and I'm speaking to everyone. And I hope, if you want to call in, 607-242-1582, please, you're more than welcome to call in. Let me ask you something. The same thing I asked a little earlier. Would you break the law for $450,000? Let me ask you, are you happy that it's going to cost you more money? Your food, the food you go out and buy every week is costing you more money because Joe Biden is going to give $500,000 to an illegal alien. Per illegal alien. Let me say it again. Per illegal alien. It's not to all illegal aliens. It's not a one-time. He is giving it out to perhaps thousands of people, $450,000 a piece, because they broke into America, they broke our laws, and some of them had their families were separated because they broke the law. And according to the 1997 law, you have to separate kids from adults. And because we had to separate kids from adults, a law that the Obama administration itself opposed and lost. The Obama administration tried to keep parents and kids together, and they lost. And the Obama administration separated kids and parents. That is a fact. That is a fact. Because of a 1997 law that in 2015, the Obama administration could not turn around. They could not break the law. So we're not, and now it's being blamed on Trump, of course, even though it's what the Obama administration did. And the Trump administration did exactly what the Obama administration did. But because Orange Man bad and Joe Biden desperately needs a win, he's going to say, we have to give $450,000 to illegal aliens because Orange Man bad, and you're going to pay for it, and it's coming out of your pocket, and you're going to pay more for your food, your Christmas gifts, your Thanksgiving. It's going to cost you more money, and you might even be evicted from your home. Oh, well. Can you imagine that? And I get the joke, Hot Chicks, by the way. You're making a Captain America joke from the movie The First Avenger, which is funny. That is funny. If you were wondering, why did the show today start a little bit later? Why did it have so many problems trying to get the show started? Why were the internet overlords making it difficult? It's because I'm having this very conversation. Because it's in the description. That we're talking about the Biden administration opening up our border, opening up the floodgates, and taking away your money. I mean, seriously, taking away your money. Remember, if you make $400,000 a year, he wants you to, remember, he's taxing the rich. It's only going to be if you make $400,000 or more. But if you happen to be an illegal alien that had made $10,000 to $20,000 a year in your home country, he's going to give you $400,000. If you're in the middle class of America and you're paying more for your food and your gasoline and your electricity because of climate change, well, who cares about you? Joe Biden surely doesn't. Mike says, would you vote Democrat for $450,000? No, I would not. No, I would not. I wouldn't vote because I believe in the principle. I don't vote, and I don't believe money should be involved in the voting. And think about it, they've already been trying to buy us off. How much money did they give us before the election? How much money did Joe Biden promise he was going to give everyone in America? Was it $2,000 that he promised he was going to give us? If he got elected, you would get a check for $2,000. He promised you. He was guaranteeing you're going to get $2,000 if he gets elected. And then he gave you $1,300, $1,400 checks. You got $1,400 checks instead. Oops. He lied to you. Because he doesn't care. He broke his word to you. Promised you $2,000. You got $1,400 instead. But it's free money. Until you consider, oh yeah, but there's inflation. Oh yeah, but we printed $6 trillion so that every dollar that we have is worth less today than it was 1 year ago. That a dollar doesn't buy as much money as it did a year ago. And inflation is eating up, it makes everything that you pay for that much more expensive. Klaus! Hey Klaus, good to see you there. And Klaus says Biden is screwing over Democratic voters of all his actions. Well, yeah, this isn't just and here's I'm not saying it's a progressive problem or a Republican problem or a conservative problem. This is a problem that's affecting Americans. I think all Americans should be upset about this. Not all Americans are upset about it. Most Americans don't even know about this stuff. I mean, ask people around you. Ask them, did you know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to pay illegal aliens $450,000? I guarantee you they're going to tell you, no, they're not doing that. Yes, they are doing that. Yes, they are talking about that. Did you know that New York State spent $2 billion on illegal aliens? That New York State spent we gave checks out to $15,000 to illegal aliens. We were handing out checks, $15,000 to illegal aliens, to people who broke our laws in our nation, and the people of New York State paid for it. The people who are going to pay for the $450,000, that's coming from you. If you're in America, you're paying for it. You got a check for $1,400. You got a $1,400 check. An illegal alien is going to get $450,000. And you're paying for it out of your taxes. And no one's talking about giving any American citizen, no American citizen's getting a check from the government for $15,000. No one in the middle class is getting a check for $450,000. Poor people aren't getting that. And why? Why? Because they can get away with it. Because anyone who talks about it, like this channel, they're going to silence the voice. They're going to make it almost impossible for the signal to get out. They're going to delay and try and discourage people from seeing this. They're going to subvert this so that it's not as easily found in search engines. And they're not going to, and I got asked this recently. Well, Mike, if they're trying to hide it so much, why can you speak? Why is it that we see you? Well, because they make it hard to find so that no one can complain, so that you can't, because it would be breaking the law. It would be censorship if they were just to stop me from speaking, if they eliminated voice. But if the voice exists and you can't find it, well, then that's not against the law. It's kind of like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around, doesn't make any sound. If there's a video telling you the crimes that are happening in America and no one gets to see it, did the video exist? Because I can tell you, if the videos, the forest of YouTube, the forest of the major news media, is that Joe Biden is a great guy and he cares about you. He pays attention when he's not asleep, when he's not on vacation in Maryland at his home, when he's not ignoring the American citizens that were abandoned in Afghanistan on his word, as these unvetted Afghan refugees are being distributed across our country and committing sexual assaults. Klaus says that Democratic voters don't say anything negative what Biden has implemented. No, they don't. And they will complain about it. And they will tell you that again, the answer is, well, you're a racist. It's kind of like the critical race theory, intersectionality, gender identity politics. If you complain about it, well, then you're a bad person. And if you do nothing about it, you're a bad person. The only way that you can be a good person is you do what you are told. You obey. That's not America. America isn't about obey. America is about question. Question and be responsible. Self-responsibility, being accountable. That's what America is supposed to be about. That's part of our freedom, is to be able to be self-accountable, to be self-responsible, to be able to implement the best laws and policies possible for the broadest number of people. And it's not like America is not a great country. Think about it. The United States gives more away in charity than every other nation in the world. Most nations in the world combined don't give to charity as much as the United States does. And that's independently. That's just the American people. That's not from the government. We're not talking about the government handouts like paying Pakistan $10 million for gender studies, whatever that means. Don't even know what that is. It's not like the $6 billion that the United States government wants to give to the Taliban, even as they are committing acts of atrocities, just atrocities against women and children because of their religious beliefs. And the Biden-Harris administration is in negotiations with them right now to give them your tax money. And that is also a fact. Hey, Hot Chicks, thank you for commenting and thank you for listening in, and see the rest of the show afterwards. But I want you to have a great day. But think about it, folks. And again, Klaus, Mike, everybody else who's listening, tell me, do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I've missed something here? For any of the Democrats that are watching this, and there are a few, and many of them are politicians, tell me where I'm wrong. Call into the show, 607-242-1582. Tell me how I am misunderstanding the evidence that we have in front of us. Tell me how we're seeing compassion. Tell me how this is even working, how this is effective. Tell me this. Show me where there is any poll in America that says that Americans want to give $500,000 to illegal aliens for breaking our laws. Show me one poll that says that. Show me one poll that says Americans want to give $15,000 to illegal aliens. Show me one poll. Because it doesn't exist. I look on a regular basis. Not one poll in America says that American citizens think we should give $15,000 checks to illegal aliens for breaking our laws. There isn't a single poll that exists that says that Americans want the Biden administration to give $450,000 to illegal aliens for breaking our laws. There isn't a poll out there that says that poor people should want to pay more for food and gas and electricity for any reason, let alone climate change, or in fact, to be able to pay off these illegal aliens. There isn't a poll out there that says that. Not one. Are there polls that say that people want cleaner air? Absolutely. And we all do. And we want cleaner water. Absolutely. Do we want to not be able to go to the store? Do we want to lose our ability to get on the internet? Do we want to lose all of the things that we have in America? Our cell phones, our iPhones, our Starbucks. Do we want to give all of that up so that we could have a green world where we have, what is it that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she wants to have a train that goes from New York to Hawaii. Hawaii. I don't even care. You know what? Maybe even if you wanted a train that went from LA to Hawaii, from California to Hawaii, it ain't going to happen. That's what they want. That is the pipe dream that they are selling. Green energy. We're going to have a train that can go across the ocean. Yeah, we can do that. No, we can't. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. Just vote for us. Give us your money. You know what? You don't want to give us your money? We're going to take it from you. That's why we're going to hire 80,000 IRS agents and look at every single transaction. And if you haven't given us enough money, if you haven't given the government enough of your money, if you have been stingy and you gave that money to your kids to get new tires on their cars, you bought your kid a Halloween outfit, you went out with your friends for their birthday, if you spent money, we're going to go and we're going to tax you even more. Klaus mentions, no, Mike, you're dead on. How's the police handling the assault, the investigation assault on the rock thrower? Thank you for bringing that up. For those who may not have seen the show before, we cover a lot of live events. There have been protests by doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, thousands of these individuals, hundreds at any one event that we have covered live. In the last event, which was in the Southern Tier in Binghamton, New York, downtown Binghamton, there were over 150 people who were marching. Just like we've seen with BLM, just like we see Plot and Antifa have done, and they did so in Binghamton as well. But this time when these doctors and nurses were marching, a young college-age kid threw a rock at the marchers, the protesters, who were peaceful. They were just speaking. And he just comes on out with a big smile on his face, threw a rock. We have video of it. We've given it to the Binghamton police. He committed an assault. He tried to harm people for just doing what we've seen BLM do, to express their opinion, to share their thoughts. Well, at this moment, the police are still trying to track down the kid. They're still trying to find out who this individual was. It seems that the people at the residence that he ran to won't mention his name, and they haven't seen that exact person yet. So the case is still open. The charges still exist. We just haven't caught them. But I am following up on it, and I do want this person arrested. Because in the same way that if they threw a rock at the BLM protesters, I would say that person needs to be arrested and the law needs to be followed, and it's wrong and it sets a bad precedent. Same thing I'm saying here for the kid who throws a rock at people who are saying that they don't agree with the pandemic mitigation mandate. It's the same thing. Laws only work if they all apply equally to everyone. Illegal aliens don't get a separate set of laws. The rich and the poor don't get to have different sets of laws. Progressives and conservatives don't get to have different sets of laws. Protesters don't get to have different sets of laws. This is how the system works. That's how you have a society. But when you have different national anthems, when you have people being taught that that people of certain colors are less than other people, when we allow people to break certain laws and we pay them to break these laws, then you don't have a society anymore. You have anarchy. That's not a nation. That's just a place that's falling apart. And I really don't want that to happen to America, which is why I'm trying to present this information and let you see it for what it is. Not what I want it to be, not what I think it could be, but this is the consequences of what we are doing right now. And as we remain silent and we keep re-electing these people, or we elect people like Letitia James, who is absolutely manufacturing and manipulating people in your face manipulating you. The more we elect these people, the worse it is for all of us. This isn't helping us. It's not a benefit for us. By the way, let me take a second here. I just want to mention, if you've made it this far in the show, and if you've come back, I thank you. And I want you to know that, please, do subscribe. It does make a difference. It helps us with the algorithms. It helps us fight things that, like at the very beginning of the show, where the internet overlords were cutting off the content because they didn't like the words we were using. They didn't like the subjects that we were covering. And so they tried to discourage everyone from ever seeing this very video, this very live stream with you. They didn't want your voices to be heard. They were trying to cut you out. So the more you subscribe, and we want to get to 1,000. That's it. Let's get to 1,000 people. If we can get to 1,000 people, we break through the algorithms, and that allows us to be able to speak better with you, to hear more people answering the questions that we're asking here. Do you think America's fair right now? Do you think let me ask you, do you think the Biden-Harris administration is more concerned about you, an American citizen, or are they more concerned about illegal aliens? Who do they pick? Who would they pick as a priority? As a matter of fact, I'll ask that question. Hang on one second. Did that go through? No, it didn't. Of course not. Let me try it again. Let me try and tap that again. Remember, folks, you can always call into the show. You can not only leave comments, but you can call in to 607-242-1582 and let us know what you think. We are always happy to hear your voices. There we go. I really want to know what people think. I really want to know if people think that I'm wrong. That people think Joe Biden is a warm, happy little grandpa. Or do you think he's a callous, calculating politician? Or is he just lost? Is he mentally deficient at this point? And I've said it before in this program, I'll say it again. I think they're going to keep Joe Biden around just long enough to make it past the November election in 2023, and they're going to get to use the 25th Amendment. They're going to replace him in a heartbeat. They're going to replace him, and Kamala Harris in January 2023 is going to be in the Oval Office. I truly believe that, but maybe you think I'm wrong. I don't know. And I do want to hear from people overseas. Because overseas, let me ask you, if you're in England, if you're in France, Germany, if you're watching this show in Peru, and I know I have an audience down in Peru, it's good to see you guys. If you're in Nicaragua, El Salvador, if you happen to be in any of the African nations, let me ask you, do you think, or did you hear that the Biden administration is giving away this money? that New York State's giving away this money? Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration are trying to keep you out of America? Or do they have an open door to let you in? What's the rest of the world have to say? For the people who are not in America, who are not Americans, do you think America cares more about American citizens, or are they more concerned about illegal aliens? You never hear anyone ask that in the news media. You never hear anyone say, well, what does the rest of the world think? In fact, they don't give a format for you to ever hear that, to ever ask that question. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to hear your voice. They don't want you to think. They won't ask the question because you have to think about the answer. They don't want you to do that. I do. Even if that answer is different than what I have as an answer, even if you come to a different conclusion than I have, than this channel does, we want you to think. We want you to come up with an answer for yourself. Because America is better if you do. But I'm pretty sure there aren't any Americans who want to take $450,000 out of their pocket to give to illegal aliens. There's no one who wants to take $15,000 out of their pocket to give to illegal aliens. I don't know of anyone in America that wants to forget Americans that are in the middle of a terrorist country and just ignore them. That they want to ignore sexual assaults. That they would want to ignore the death of 16,000 people and a government that would cover that up. And that government isn't limited to just Andrew Cuomo or just Governor Newsom or just Governor Whitmer. It's across the country. I wish it were just one person in politics. I wish it were just one type of law, only one situation. Because then we could fix it easy. If New York State corruption was just isolated to Andrew Cuomo, or if in California, if the corruption was just on Governor Newsom, or if it was just in Michigan, it was just Governor Whitmer, we could just replace them, vote them out, and be all right. Except it's not. Because the state legislature is the one who gave away the unlimited power of the government, turned Andrew Cuomo into an emperor, have appointed Governor Kathy Hochul into an empress, who are able to do almost anything that they want to do, that they violate the laws. It's the state and state assembly and the state senate that are allowing these payments. In fact, authorizing these payments to illegal aliens. They're the ones who are allowing Afghan refugees to come into our country without any vetting, come into our state without any vetting, without any notification, even though there's a history and a pattern of sexual assaults of women in America because of this. I wish it were so simple as just to get rid of one person and it's all better now. But it's not. Democrats are voting for these things in Congress. They're voting for these things in state legislatures. Loudoun County didn't happen because one person, the president of the Loudoun County School Board, the reason why a young girl got raped in a bathroom in a school in Loudoun County wasn't because of the president of the Loudoun County School Board. No. It was because of the entire school board and the fact that the state of Virginia passed a bad law that said, hey, protect this progressive idea rather than actually consider a law that has consequences that are obvious and that people are telling you sexual predators will abuse this law. Rethink the law, write the law better, make it more fair. They didn't do that. And then when the sexual assault happened, they were like, oh, well, it's only one person. It's only the principal of the school. It's only this Loudoun County School Board president. They're the only bad people. If we get rid of those people, everything's going to be fine. The law didn't change. The law is what caused the problem. And because of that, you're going to have a problem. When you say, oh, well, all we have to do is, maybe we'll get rid of Joe Biden, or maybe Kamala Harris will make it better. No, because they're passing laws and they're not enforcing laws that already exist. Illegal immigration was broken under Obama. It's been broken under every president for the last 5 decades that I've been alive. But it's really been abused recently with all the sanctuary cities. The problem isn't one person. The problem is we're letting groups of these elites, a small group of people, to do anything they want. They are running ramshod, and we're being silent because we're afraid of someone saying, I'm offended by what you say. I don't care if you're offended. I don't care if you don't like what I have to say. I'm not saying it because I want you to feel good or feel bad. I could care less about how you feel. I care about what we're doing. I care about you understanding the consequences of silence. I want you to understand the consequences of electing bad politicians, of allowing bad laws to be put onto the books. I want you to understand the consequences of losing your freedom. If you feel good or bad about that, that's secondary. I don't care. And as I'm told, if I did care about feelings, I'd probably be making more money. Oh, well, I'm not looking to make more money. I'm looking to make a better country. I think you are too. I think that's why you watch the show. I think that's why you watch this video all the way to this point. James says, order out of chaos. Well, I think we're getting chaos out of order right now. And by the way, James, thank you for joining us here today. But think about it, James. What we have right now, we have laws, which are order. And we're throwing them out the window, and we're only selectively passing certain laws. When California chooses whether or not to follow immigration law, when New York State gets to choose whether they're going to follow an immigration law, when we see that in Kentucky, and we see it in Wisconsin and Idaho and Illinois, throughout the nation, when we see them picking and choosing which laws to follow, and when we see them saying, well, self-defense means this thing in one state but means something else completely in another, when we see that the Second Amendment is being applied so that Kyle Rittenhouse can't defend himself, but we excuse Alec Baldwin, something's wrong. We have the laws, and they're making it into chaos. All I'm trying to say is we have to recognize that. We're losing freedoms. When we treat, I don't know how many times I heard someone say in the last week in sending messages, well, Alec Baldwin's an actor, so the law doesn't apply to him. There isn't a single state or city in the nation that says that an actor has a different set of laws and rules than everyone else. Alec Baldwin is susceptible and accountable to the same laws that you and I are. He committed manslaughter, period. And if you're looking at that and you have to apply those very same rules to Kyle Rittenhouse, who defended himself. These are the same kinds of laws. And you can't say, well, Kyle Rittenhouse was committing murder, but Alec Baldwin, well, that was an accident. No, it doesn't work that way. You can't have these two different sets of rules based on a feeling that has been promoted by a bunch of politicians that have a political agenda. And we have to recognize that and accept that. We can't say, well, I want to feel good about myself, so I don't want to prosecute those illegal aliens because they happen to live in a horrible country. Well, I understand. It's sad that people live in countries that are horrible. Not every country can be in America. In fact, no country besides America can be in America. And most of the time, America isn't America. But let's think about this honestly. While I feel bad that you live in Haiti, and Haiti is a horrible hellhole, I understand that. It always has been, and it probably always will be. It's absolutely corrupt. It's absolutely impoverished. It's absolutely defunct. That doesn't mean the people are bad. The government is bad. The country is bad. And I can feel bad for the people of Haiti, but that doesn't mean I'm obligated to give them $450,000. It doesn't mean that I'm obligated to give them $15,000. I'm not obligated to open up our doors and usher in the entire country of Haiti into the United States. Those aren't the answer is not Haiti is a horrible place, so come to America. That's not the answer. We don't open our doors that way. That isn't how it works. It's never worked like that in the past, and it shouldn't work in the future because it's a horrible, inept way to resolve it. It may make you feel good for a day, and then you destroy your economy, you destroy your society, you destroy your laws, and then you feel just as bad because you turned America into Haiti. Now, no one wins. No one gains. No one has an advantage. Is it hard to see it that way? Giving away $500,000 to each illegal alien because you want to sell this idea of Orange Man bad, and you want people to go, oh, look, Democrats, progressives, they're the good guys. By the way, you're also at the same time bankrupting the country. It's money we don't have, and it's money that we can't afford to spend. We can't afford it. We're $29 trillion in debt. We don't have this money to give away. And if we have to give money away in whatever magnitude, I'd rather start with, how about we give it to the Americans in this country that have the greatest need? Let's spend it on, people want to say, well, we have to fix our bridges and our roads. I got a neat idea. Don't give $450,000 per illegal alien. Don't give them that money. Don't spend $2 billion on illegal aliens in New York State. Don't do it. In California, don't spend $600 a month paying criminals not to commit crime. Don't do it. We just found a whole bunch of money. You want to fix some bridges? There's a couple $1 billion right there. Spend the money on that. Or rather, on the bridges. Don't spend it on the illegal aliens, the people who broke our laws. How about that? Is that a crazy idea? Is that terrible? How about this? Let's not open up our nation inviting 700,000 illegal aliens into our country and telling every other country in the world, if you come to America, they will give you free money. Because I guarantee you that's the message that other countries are hearing. And we're telling people, oh, you can break our laws. You can go in and all you have to do is say, I'm a woman, and you can go and rape women. That's what we are saying to the rest of the world. We are saying to the world that we're more worried about the clouds in the air than the people on the ground. And if you don't agree, you're going to get punished. Mike says, Biden's pandemic medication mandate is also unconstitutional. It is. I agree with you there. Still, he goes on to say, still, tens of thousands of Americans will be losing their jobs. They are already losing their jobs. We have seen in New York State alone, 33,000 doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers lost their jobs. At the same time that we were already in New York State short over 100,000 doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers. We've actually made the situation worse and hurt every New Yorker's healthcare. And we're seeing that around the country. It's happening in California. It's happening in Wisconsin, in Minneapolis. It's happening everywhere in the country. And Mike goes on to mention service members, policemen, firefighters, ambulances, drivers, doctors, nurses. You're right, all of them. We're talking about thousands of and the city of Chicago is going to lose a third of its police force. It's not the only one. There are thousands of police officers in Seattle, in Portland, Washington, in California. We're looking at thousands. How many people in New York State, the fire department, the first responders, how many thousands of people are we losing? That's affecting our healthcare. That's affecting our crime. It's affecting people's ability to live their lives. Where is the priority? And people want to tell me that Joe Biden cares. About what? Finish the sentence. Joe Biden cares. About what? Obama wants to transform the nation. Into what? We keep allowing politicians to give us part of a sentence because our teachers are so busy trying to teach us that this color, a person with this color is a good person, a person with this color is a bad person. Our teachers are so busy trying to do that, they're forgetting to teach us English. So when people hear someone say, Joe Biden cares, they don't hear the last part. They're like, where's the rest of that sentence? He cares about what? What is the subject of that question? Of that statement. What about Obama wants to transform America? Into what? Finish the sentence. It is important to understand where are you going with that. That is not a thought. That is a fragment of a thought. And if we had, instead of trying to get kids to use, what is that stupid, you got to see these commercials all the time. It's so that it teaches kids how to write a sentence. They target college students. Use this, and this program will figure out how to write a word for you, how to write a sentence for you. That's the job of your English teacher in 6th grade. And if you're in college or if you're grown and you can't write a sentence, you can write better sentences, you can write worse sentences. But if you can't write a sentence without some computer program writing it for you, and you're in college, your teachers have failed you. If that same student can tell me that this color is good and that color is bad, but they can't write a sentence, your teachers weren't trying to teach you, they were programming you because you're a robot. Or maybe you think I'm wrong on that. If you disagree with me, I'd love to hear it. If you're a college student right now, using whatever is that program, I see it on the commercials all the time, whatever it's called, if you're using that program to write in sentences and you're going to tell me, well, no, Mike, it's more important to know what color of people are good and what color of people are bad instead of knowing how to write a sentence, let's have that discussion. I will have that debate with your college professor. Invite me to your college. I will be happy to have that debate in your college. Because you don't need to be a college professor to understand a book, to understand concepts, to be able to have a conversation. They are not the only ones with intelligence in the world. A degree does not denote intelligence, and it doesn't mean that you're right. Klaus mentions, how about no funding other countries for 4 years, spend the money in the United States rebuilding infrastructure? Well, we've seen Rand Paul and Ron Paul before him say that for decades. And I can't say that they're necessarily, within reason, I don't think they're wrong. But when I hear that the State Department under Secretary Blinken is telling the American Congress, they're telling senators and members of the House of Representatives that we're about to give $6 billion to terrorists, that we have spent $85 million giving $85 million on Hamas, a terrorist organization that turned around and used the money to buy Iranian rockets to try and kill people in Israel. They bought 4,000 rockets that they turned around and tried to kill women and children with. And the answer from progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was to say, oh, and take away the ability of Israel to defend themselves. I think we have a problem. Our society is going into the wrong place. Grammarly, that's what it's called, Grammarly. Thank you, James. James mentioned it. Society is dependent on Grammarly. That's what it's called, Grammarly. And yes, I have always said, and I believe this from the day I first saw the first video on that, the first commercial on Grammarly. If you are dependent on Grammarly to make a sentence, your teachers have failed you. Pick up a dictionary, pick up a book, read and write and practice. You need to think. You have failed yourself. Your teachers have failed you. And and again, I will say this very clearly, if you know that the difference, if you can look at a person based on their skin color alone and say, this is a good person and that's a bad person. If you can hear someone talk and you say, based on their politics or what you believe is their politics, that this person is good and that person is bad, and you can't write a sentence without using Grammarly, you have not been taught, you have been programmed. You are not a thinking person. You are a functioning robot. And we need to recognize that in our society. And we need to acknowledge that. I'm not saying that that everyone should be writing at the level of Shakespeare. That's not necessary. But not being able to write a sentence without using a program, without using autocorrect on your cell phones, without using Grammarly as a college student, you have failed. Your professors have failed you. Your teachers failed you. And I have to say it, your parents have failed you. You failed, and you have failed yourself. You should never have to do that. You should be able to think through and write a sentence. Even if it's a bad sentence, it is a sentence. It is something that you thought of, that you were able to put together. It is your thought. You can always improve that. But if you don't have that skill, if you don't know how to think in the first place, it doesn't matter what program's filling in the blanks. It's not your thought. That's a program. You are a program, and you might as well be a robot. And maybe that's why we see so many progressives getting away with what they're doing. Because the professors in our schools are more interested in spending money to teach people to look at this person as good and that person as less than teaching them how to think and how to write. And writing is just a function of thought. Just like speaking is a function of thought. If you don't have the words in your head, you cannot say it, you cannot put it down in writing. Which, not to say that that's always a guarantee. You can do that badly, but at least you have the thoughts. If you do not have them in the first place, you are a robot. You have been programmed. And I will be happy to debate that with any professor in any college, anywhere in this nation, at any time. And I'm willing to have this conversation here because people may say, well, Mike, you're wrong. Okay. Why? And I'm not trying to attack anyone. I want people to understand, we don't attack people on this channel. I'm not trying to attack someone because they disagree with me. I'm trying to understand. If you tell me respectfully, if you're respectfully saying, Mike, I disagree with you. Okay, why? What's your reason? What's the information that's backing that up? Why do you believe that? I don't care how you feel. If you tell me, Mike, I feel bad about what you said, I don't care. It's not because I don't think you're a good person. It's not because I don't think you're worthy of caring about. No, it's not a personal judgment. I don't care about the feelings. I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about consequences. I'm talking about the things that will shape our lives, not our feelings. Your feelings will change in 5 minutes. Your life will probably not change in the next 5 minutes. Unless you happen to be an illegal alien and Joe Biden is giving you a check. If the progressives are giving you a check. If Kathy Hochul is going to give you a check so that she can get an election. Because Letitia James wants to win an election. Because Terry McAuliffe wants to win an election. And Terry McAuliffe is yet another example of someone who doesn't want you to think. He has literally said, as we showed in video just the other day, Terry McAuliffe doesn't believe that parents should be involved in the education of their kids. This is why Grammarly exists. Because of Terry McAuliffe and that mindset. It's the reason why people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez exist and can't do math, but yet is trying to create economic policy. She has no idea what she's talking about. At least Bernie Sanders is honest. He's a communist. He is a straight up communist. He has admitted that when he wants to break our economy because he is a communist, I can at least understand why he's getting to that conclusion, why he doesn't care about money, because he's a communist. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a democratic socialist, which means communist. And she's not smart enough to know that she's a communist and is trying to break our economy because she thinks, I don't even know what she thinks. I don't know that she does think about the consequences of what she's doing. She just wants to feel good. As she told us on 60 Minutes, it's more important to feel good than to be factually correct. That's nearly a verbatim quote of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, 2018 on 60 Minutes, as I recall. That's the Grammarly effect. When you don't understand, you will do stupid things, and you may be more likely to do things based on feeling than on what is actually effective, on what and understanding what the consequences are in being a human being as opposed to a robot. And our media wants to create more robots. Terry McAuliffe wants more robots. He doesn't want parents involved in the education of kids. We have Attorney General Garland is trying to use the full weight and power and threat of the federal government and the FBI against parents, because parents want kids to be able to write a sentence and not use Grammarly. But Terry McAuliffe and Joe Biden, Attorney General Garland, Kathy Hochul, Newsom in California, Whitmer, what they want are robots that will be just, it's like the old joke that came from George Carlin. They want you to be barely intelligent enough to work and to click yes in the ballot box, but not intelligent enough to actually ask a question and say, and what happens when I do this? What's the consequence of what we're doing? George Carlin was prescient in that. And I don't have to agree with his politics in 100% to understand he had an insight about America and the government and the politics that are going on. And he was decades ahead of everyone on this when he saw this. Decades ahead. And I can't be too far. Those of you who are watching this, whether it's live or after the fact, even with the interruptions of the internet overlords, those who are watching this, and I hope people do get to watch this and see this, even people like Bill Maher are seeing what we are seeing. People like Jon Stewart are seeing what we're seeing. And they're finally starting to say, hang on, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. Maybe we've gone too far. Maybe defunding our cities is creating more crime and isn't a smart thing. Maybe taking away the ability for people to defend themselves isn't a smart thing. Maybe opening up our doors to everyone in the universe, like the Afghan refugees that are unvetted, like the Haitians that show up and live under a bridge, like everyone else that's just running through our border, isn't going to help our nation and kills our laws, is breaking our laws as well as our economy. Paying these illegal aliens for breaking our laws is encouraging more people to come and is going to hurt our nation even more. And not having students and kids who are able to understand that, who aren't able to write a sentence and come up with a thought, is more of a danger to America than teaching those kids to not to identify people, but to label people. You're a racist. You're not a racist. You're a victim. You're a good person. You're a bad person. You're orange man bad. That's not the priority we should be doing in our nation. That should never be the priority of our nation. That's not the priority of our government. That's not why we created a constitution and amendments. God help us. They never intended that. They may not have been perfect, but they were nowhere near this kind of autocratic insanity. And again, if you think I'm wrong, that's okay. I've had people say, oh, you're just using buzzwords. I don't think so. I'm using evidence that I've provided to you, and I'm drawing conclusions, and I'm giving you a reasoning for why I think the way I do, why I've come to these conclusions. And I think more people agree than disagree when they think about it. Even politicians who aren't willing to say this publicly, who aren't willing to back me publicly, have come up to me and spoken to me, because yes, many of them know me for the last decade or more, and they will talk to me and say, well, I agree with that part. I think more people agree than disagree, but I think more people are afraid. And we need to speak more about this. Because when we don't, we have our economy getting crushed, we have more taxes, we have more inflation, we have fewer jobs, we have more people who are upset, we have more people who are, we have foreigners who are getting treated better than American citizens, and we have a government that is point blank lying to us. Again, I've got to point this out. This is something, and again, you can search this for yourself. The Biden administration is more than happy to lie to your face. And the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Antonio Delgado, and so many others are more than willing to lie to your face. Adam Schiff are willing to lie to your face because it's all about power. And the news media, are more than happy to allow them to do this. In fact, the news media not only give them a platform to do this, they have been setting this up so that they absolutely can do this to you on a repeated basis. It's absolutely terrifying, folks. These things should not be allowed in America. Now, mind you, if you've made it this far into the show, and I thank you very much, I appreciate the fact that you've been with us, especially with the difficulties in the first half hour coming from the internet overlords, and they're suppressing our technology. But if you made it this far, I wanted to remind you that in the description will be links to everything that we've spoken about. We want to remind you that during the week, we do normally about 3 shows a week, as well as the live stream every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're here for you. We don't make money at this. You don't see any advertising. You know what? I lose money doing this but I believe in you. I believe in doing this. And I believe in having the conversation, even if you disagree. Because that's okay. We don't have to agree on everything. I'm not here to try and make you feel good by blowing smoke at you and then watching everything fall apart around you. That doesn't help me. That's not to my benefit or yours. Mike Bowley mentions, I think we are already in a spiritual, moral, cultural civil war. And I think you're right, Mike. I think you're right. I think we've been in a type of civil war for years, decades. I think it's been, in fact, you can make the argument that we've been in this fight, in this civil war, since the 70s. Because many of the elements of it, the radicals, rules for radicals, have been around since the 60s. And these individuals grew up, and now they are running our country. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, these are some of the radicals that were around back in the day. Kirsten Gillibrand. And then we have the people who have been taught by those people, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cori Bush, Anna Presley. We have the foreigners that we have let into our nation, like Rashida Tlaib. And I'll even include Arnold Schwarzenegger in that. We have built up the very people and the very systems that are destroying the foundations of our nation. And I want to mention this again. And I thank you, James, by the way, for the compliment there. James mentions that it's hard to disagree with common sense. I would like to think this is common sense. But our politicians, our news media tell me that it's not. They tell me that I'm evil. I have groups like Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, otherwise known as PLOT. They tell me that I'm a racist. I hear people like Citizen Action, and I have groups like the Democratic Socialists of America, the Ithaca chapter, that tell me that I am evil and that I am a white supremacist. Look at me, folks, this video. You can see my face. They literally have come up to my face and told me, no, you're just a white supremacist. Like, I don't think so. The mirror says you're wrong. My mom says you're wrong. My dad says you're wrong. The world says you're wrong. But this is what they want to tell us, because no, that can't be common sense, because if it's true, then it breaks their world view and they have to reevaluate. They have to no longer be part of the program. They can't be a robot. They have to think and come up with their own sentences. And I want people to do that. If you believe in being a progressive, fantastic. Give me reasons why. Not parroting what someone else has told you. Give me a reason why. Give me your reason. I'm a Republican not because of the Republican machine. It's because of the ideology and how I believe in it myself, as an example. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I very much believe in the ideology, the system that says, I want to teach you how to fish. I don't want to give you fish. If I give you a fish, you will be dependent on me for life. You are now my slave, whether that's economic or physical or mental, it doesn't matter. You are now dependent on me. You have learned nothing and you are unable to do nothing without me. I don't agree with that. I prefer that I will teach you so that you can do it for yourself. Maybe you will be a better fisherman than I am, and you can show me how to do it better. Maybe that's your entrepreneurial spirit. You'll do it better and be more efficient at it, and therefore you can teach me, and we can both benefit from that. Maybe you will fish for something different than I'm fishing for, which means we have more diversity. Again, we both get to benefit, and maybe we trade. So you're going after turtles, and I'm going after fish, and we get to trade on that. And we get to grow on that. I want to teach you and allow you to develop and grow in your own manner. That's what I believe in. That's what I think America does exceptionally well. I think that's the reason why America is such a great nation. And instead, we are watching progressives take control as they continue to say, oh, you don't need to learn anything. You don't need to be taught anything. Just do what we say. Don't think about it. We have a program for that. We have a program to think for you. It's called Grammarly, or it's called whatever program they want to use. It will think for you. You don't need to worry about working. We will give you money. Universal basic income. We will give you money. We will give you the stimulus bonus. You don't have to work. We are going to give you things. And by the way, we're going to give even more to other people that give us more of a political advantage because you're now dependent on us. You don't get a choice. You can only live as good as when you're following the progressive ideology. You can only live as good as the government will allow you to live. It's the same as a socialist and communist system. You only live as good as those elite leaders allow you to live because they're providing for you. If you're more capitalist, if you're more conservative, if you're more Republican, then you're going to agree with the idea that you're going to potentially live better based on what you do. Mind you, you might fail. There is no guarantee. Democrats are going to give you a guarantee. Well, not even Democrats. The progressives, and I want that difference to be understood very clearly. We're not talking about Democrats here. We're talking about progressives, socialists, democratic socialists, communists. They're all the same thing. Doesn't matter which word you want to use. They're going to guarantee you a life and a quality of life because you can never get more than what they are providing to you. And that's counter to the other part where I'm saying you may lose, but you may win. But when you have it, and let me give you another way of looking at this. When you have a progressive system, the government will lie to you, and no one will ever question them. In a more capitalist, more free country, the government's going to lie, it's going to hurt, and you can hold them accountable. And maybe it gets better. Maybe it gets worse. But you have a choice. And you don't have to be lied to. And it makes it harder for the next guy to lie in the same way. Joe Biden is a liar. The Biden-Harris administration has lied to you. It is undeniable. They don't care about Americans because they lied to you. They told you there's 100 people that they left, they abandoned in Afghanistan. After telling you they would never abandon anyone, they abandoned Americans and they told you, no, it's only 100 people. And now they're telling you, no, it's 4.5 times as many people. And that means it could be thousands of people. And they don't want you to hold them accountable. They're telling you, well, you have to do that because you want that free check, right? You want that next COVID relief check, right? You want that next COVID bonus check, right? You don't have to go to work every day, right? Then you can't say Biden lied to you, that Kamala Harris doesn't care. You can't say that because if you do, you don't get those benefits anymore. Guess what? In that system, under that scenario, you know what you are? You're a slave. Economically, mentally, effectively, you are a slave. And I know progressives hate to think of themselves in that way and hate to think that that's the case. And they hate to think that they're the slave owners, and yet they are. That's the system they are promoting. And they're the ones who benefit from it. And we've shown you several examples of that today. Klaus mentions, many people think it's hopeless to have and they have no power to change things. Takes too much time in their life. They look at it as wasted time. That kind of thinking doesn't correct the situation of politicians. We have been taught your vote doesn't matter. You can't change the government. You can't fight against the government. Yes, you can. That's what I do that's what we do here every Sunday. And I guarantee you, they are paying attention. I don't have the problems with my system with trying to be uploading videos because they don't listen, that they don't care. It's because they do, and they don't want you to think. Mike mentions, this is the seductive phase of communism. Communism always starts the same way. You're going to be free, more free than you've ever been. You're going to have more stuff than you've ever had. Everyone's going to be okay. Everyone's going to get everything, which has never happened ever in the history of communism and socialism. It has never existed. It never works out that way, no matter where it is, no matter how they've repackaged it and reallocated it. It never works that way. In every single case, every single time, it has completely failed, and people have been worse off than they have ever been before. Every single time. The number one system that's killed more people than anything else known to man: communism and socialism. Socialism has been responsible for the death of more non-wartime death. More non-wartime deaths have occurred because of socialist governments than any other form of government in the world. And socialism is communism. That is a fact. Yes, communists do know how to pound sand. That is true. They don't really have a choice, do they? All right, folks. So we've gone about 2.5 hours. The show usually runs about 2.5 hours, and I love to do that. And I don't think we've actually gone very far from where I started the show in talking about the crime that we see in New York subways. That the same programming that tells you that requires that you can only speak with Grammarly and that you cannot think for yourself is the same logic, the same programming that leads to the attack in the New York City subway that we showed you at the beginning of the show. It's the same kind of thinking that allows us to pay illegal aliens for coming into this nation rather than using that money to help people in this nation already. If the $6 billion that we're going to spend on the terrorists in Afghanistan, we could use $6 billion to get the American citizens out of Afghanistan and have money left over. We could fix our bridges and tunnels by not spending money on the illegal aliens and are having an open door, and we'd fix the bridges and tunnels. If we weren't so focused on trying to have equity, we would have equality. At least that's what we believe on this channel. And that's what we are willing to stand here and tell you and have that debate. You may disagree, and that's okay. That's what this program is about. You can say you do not agree. We aren't, excuse me, sorry. We're not like progressives. You can speak your mind. You can disagree, and that's perfectly fine. We don't expect you to believe and agree with everything we say in every way that we say it. That's why we do this every Sunday, to hear what you have to say from anywhere in the world. And again, I say to those, our friends in the United Kingdom, in France, in Germany, in Peru, in Canada, and the other 115 countries that watch this program every week, we want to say to you all, please let us know what you think. Am I missing this? In your experience around the world, have I properly described what the true effect of socialism has been? Is it true that the less people are able to think for themselves, the more dependent they become on government and politicians? Is it true that freedom dies as you guarantee the type of life a person will live? Is it true that the Biden administration seems to be signaling and asking people to enter the United States illegally in the way that they are having this open door policy, how they're paying illegal aliens with American citizens' tax dollars? Let me ask you in America, do you think that your taxes should be used to pay for illegal aliens? Do you think that you have to pay more for food because illegal aliens are going to get that food for free? Does that seem like the right thing to do? And why? Folks, I am going to be here every Sunday. The internet overlords can try their very best to silence me, to try and silence you, because they're not worried. I got this show going today, even when they were trying to hold us down, to stop us from being able to speak. We came on, we spoke to you. They don't want you to speak. They don't want you to think. We're going to be here every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to get through to you. We're going to have a conversation with you. And we hope you're going to be there to tell us what you think. I look forward to seeing you throughout this week. And folks, enjoy Halloween. Please go out and vote. And whomever you want to vote for, have a reason, go out and vote. It matters. You matter. And we're looking forward to seeing you next week.